I've long been a fan of the Star Wars movies, not because my first child was born on May the 4th, but because good and evil are embroiled in cosmic combat in a way that there's always hope that good will prevail. We root for good, for the light side of the Force in each of those movies. The Star Wars may seem to us to have a modern storyline, but the genre of cosmic conflict has very, very ancient roots. It's a story humans have told and retold throughout history. And by the time of the New Testament, there had long been stories of gods battling in the heavens, light forces versus dark forces. In one well-known Greco-Roman story, a monster named Python tries to destroy the god Apollo before he is even born. And when Apollo grows up, he and Python do get out in a cosmic battle that Apollo wins, because the light side of the Force is with him. And that should sound familiar. It's the Luke Skywalker versus the Emperor story. If we read the whole book of Revelation, we find the storyline there too. In fact, today's reading that Robin read so nicely reminds me of the final scene of the first released Star Wars movie, which ends with many nations and people gathered as the light forces victory and peace are joyfully celebrated. And those images in the movie are akin to those in our lectionary. There is peace and the light side of the Force. God has wiped away the tears from the eyes of those who follow good and defeated the dark force of empires. You see, the book of Revelation is, if nothing else, a story about light versus dark, of good defeating evil. And there's a long history of humans telling stories of the dark side of the Force, duking it out with the light side of the Force for the good of all creation. Marcus Borg refers to the genre as the ancient cosmic combat myth, where a god or gods of light, order and life fight against a god or gods of darkness, disorder and death. The author of the book of Revelation, John of Patmos, knew the ancient cosmic combat myth and formulated his book from it. Just as the storyline works for us today in Star Wars, it worked for early Christians, for John's audience. But John was not just a storyteller. He was very much a poet and a Christian theologian, and so his story has amazing images and symbols and metaphors and Jesus, the Christ, in it. My advice to those having trouble reading Revelation, we all do, is to try to think of it as a Star Wars or Greek god-like poem and see if it makes more sense. John can be heard to set Jesus in the ancient role of Apollo, a role George Lucas gives the Skywalkers. John gives Caesar the ancient role of the monster. Lucas gives that role to the emperor and his minions. And the stories are not exactly alike, yet they are very much alike. John of Patmos and his listening audience, or Jewish community, still reeling in the catastrophic trauma of Rome having decimated Jerusalem and completely destroying the temple. And in response, John wrote the story in Revelation, creatively reframing the cosmic combat myth with symbols representing the dark force of Rome led by Caesar, facing off against the light force of God led by Jesus, with cosmic justice resulting in the end. And John not only wrote at a time when there was a known cosmic combat genre, he wrote when apocalyptic stories were popular in Jewish communities, like those John addressed Revelation to. The apocalypse genre of that era was read aloud and communicated messages by alternative world visions and exaggerated images to heighten a sense of urgency and call readers and hearers to commitment and to action. And John incorporates the apocalypse genre into Revelation alongside with the cosmic combat myth. And Revelation is not chronically linear, which could be confusing to us modern linear thinkers, but the story's thrust as a whole is that God triumphs over evil. As the Fortress commentary on the New Testament more specifically puts it, quote, "The Lamb Jesus defeats evil and leads us out of the unjust empire, personified as a dragon," in quote. Think Luke and Leia defeat Jabba the Hutt. Really, it's okay to do that, to wrap our heads around the story's strangeness that can hold its own with any scene in any Star Wars movie. And while the thrust is good versus evil, John tells the story in such a way that he makes these more refined, still relevant to this day, points about Christianity. And among them are the truth that Christ is Lord, and Caesar and beastly powers like Rome never are. The truth that God will act to overthrow all Caesars and all beastly powers. And the truth that therefore we should persevere, endure, be confident, take heart, and have faith. Those are the on-the-money points. But John also makes points that, if taken literally, are not on the money. Points that have distracted readers for 2,000 years. Revelation can be read to evidence that John seemed to really think that the temple fall and events in his time signaled an end time where good, cosmically defeating evil was just about to unfold back then. And in that respect, John differs from both Jesus and, for that matter, George Lucas. Neither of them is likely to have believed that an imminent end-time second coming was on the immediate horizon. To the extent Revelation claims to predict an end-time happening in the 1st century AD, it was clearly wrong and remains wrong. All this complex stuff that Revelation brings us is complicated to deal with. And consequently, when Revelation texts come up in the lectionary, like today, many pastors tend to select another text. It's not easy to explain the story as a cosmic combat, poetic myth filled with oddities and beings and ideas and dark happenings, which include the untruths of end-time prediction and un-Christ-like suggestions that God and Jesus have violent plans in place. Plans we have to face the fact that Revelation has in our lifetime been plus we have to face the fact that Revelation has in our lifetime been further unlovingly misused to claim God is going to make a hell on earth for non-believers left behind after he raptures those with the right belief, which is always the belief of the misuser of the text. And all of that complexity can get in the way of the truth that is in Revelation. Simply put, Revelation takes a lot of work and willingness to not check our brains at the door. And over the years, there have developed basically three choices when it comes to dealing with the book of Revelation. The first and most popular one seems to be to just ignore it. The second choice is to adopt a millennialistic interpretation. It's the one most of us have probably heard of, maybe even choose. That choice is hard work too. It requires a belief that God's certain plan for the future is set out in the words of a human written text that we have to puzzle through or find a code breaker to accurately divine the details of God's plan. Millennialists believe the word of Revelation literally reveal when the cosmic combat myth will actually unfold. Not in a story or in a movie, but literally on earth, in the heavens, in real time and life. In the popular 1970s millennialist book, The Late Great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey and Carol Carlson explained how the book of Revelation signs were unfolding back then. Their original decoding showed that in the 1980s we would experience the violent end times Revelation reveal. I was probably 14 when I read it, and I found it unloving and unbelievable even before the 80s decade proved it untrue. God and Jesus planning the destruction of humankind on a mass scale, belies Jesus' teaching. It belies 1 Corinthians 13 and the God who is love that I experienced as a youth and ever since. And how Lindsay's grip on clergy and churchgoers that I knew back then in the 1970s was one of the factors that led me to leave church for 20 years. No God of love I could imagine could plan and unleash what Lindsay or more modern millennialists portend. I'm unable to believe in a God who acts unloving, or for that matter, breaks the laws of nature that creation runs by with magic and mystical beasts. That's decidedly not the God that I experience, or the God of Jesus in the Gospels. And so, and hear me clearly, no one has to agree with me. I have long chosen to reject the millennialistic interpretation of the book of Revelation. The God I know does not use violence, does not persecute non-believers, does not hide messages in code, and does not use supernatural methods to break the laws of nature, even to triumph over evil. I also reject the existence of a lesser deity, Satan, whose very existence would prove monotheism wrong. In my experience, creation has more than enough awe and wonder and evidence that God defeats evil with non-violent love. And so I not only reject the notion that Satan exists, but the notion of a God who has concocted supernatural cosmic combat plan to destroy humans in order to save them, and put the plans in a mystical code waiting to be deciphered. If God was violent and using supernatural powers, then Good Friday would have seen Jesus take on the likes of Rome with legions of fire-breathing angels, not legions of non-violent love. What is the point of Jesus' life, teachings, death, and Easter resurrection if God's always had in mind a plan of cataclysmic future? The millennialist approach makes no sense in light of Easter. So I reject it. If I don't ignore Revelation, and I don't accept the millennialistic interpretation, what other choice is there? I choose to approach Revelation like we do the rest of it, honoring its historical context and the author's likely intended information he had and conveyed, all the while filtering it with Jesus' gospel of love and his and our God of love. The progressive theological approach begins with facts. We know John of Patmos was writing to his contemporaries not long after the temple was destroyed by the dark forces of Rome, headed at one time by the evil Emperor Nero, who burned Rome, persecuted Christians, was the last of the Julio-Claudian emperors who ruled in Jesus' day, and was the one who, before he died, sent an army that destroyed the temple. We know in John's day a dark empire dominated the world in defiance of the light force, a force that was and is with Christ. We know too that poets and storytellers like John wrote in dramatic symbol and metaphor. As I already mentioned, apocalyptic writers like John wrote to orally communicate messages by alternative world visions, exaggerating images with a sense of urgency and a call to commitment and action. We also know that John's letter was meant for those who listened to his message back then. It's beyond a reasonable doubt that any codes, symbols, or metaphors were intended for John's audience. We can still find meaning in them, but we must begin with finding the meaning for them. And this necessarily means that if there are predictions, then John is forecasting their future, not some other generations. And guess what? That's what John claims in the book to be doing. In the very first sentence of his book, John tells the audience the revelation is set out to show them, quote, what must soon take place. A couple of verses later, he reiterates the book is for them now, quote, for the time is near, end quote. And then at the end of the book, John circles back and states he is revealing something soon to those then living. In short, predictions in Revelation were meant for then, not now. Then being around the end of the 1st century A.D. All of this means that whatever truths we might find in the book of Revelation, we cannot ignore the first truth stated by the author, that it was for his audience and pertained to their time. Think about it. Why would John write a letter that had no meaning to his audience? If he was describing events in the distant future, the words would be babbled to them, just as they are babbled to us when taken out of the time that it was meant for. John's intent as a Christian leader was to send a message to other Christians of his day, not to us. And that makes sense, and it fits John's own words. Plus, if we dig around, we can also find the symbolic imagery referencing realities of his day. For instance, it was common back then to assign numbers to letters in a human-made code called gematria, the famous 666 mark of the beast, encodes as Caesar Nero, the infamous emperor of Rome who headed up the dark side of the force. And similarly, Revelation references to a great prostitute named Babylon who rides the beast in the 7 mountains. John's audience would know as a reference to Rome, the beastly behaving empire centered in a city built on 7 mountains. And Rome was Babylon of John's day because it destroyed the second temple like Babylon destroyed the first. John and his audience heard the fantastic, magical beast in Revelation as Rome, the dark empire that Christ and the force of good was sent to stop. And even though John is wrong about the end time coming, if that's what he meant, he was not wrong about the empire being the dark side of the force, or Christ being the light side of the force. If you read the whole book of Revelation, at the end, John evokes images of a new Jerusalem, a new creation on earth where every nation and their leaders live and walk in the light of God. It's a beautiful image. And the gates of that new city are open to the whole world. No bars based on belief or class or skin color or gender or age or sexuality. It's God's dream that we heard last week in our lesson from Isaiah 65 and Pastor Anna's sermon. This is the dream of God in Isaiah, in the teachings of Jesus, in much of the Bible. It's a dream about a peaceful place and a peaceful people. It is John's church's dream. It's our dream too. As Marcus Moore puts it in his great chapter on Revelation and reading the Bible again for the first time, quote, it speaks of the reunion of God with humankind, thereby overcoming the exile that began in Eden, in Rome. And our text today supports that interpretation. First, we are told that a great multitude from every nation, tribes, people, and languages are with God, and that with Christ God will shelter all. They will hunger no more and thirst no more. The sun will not strike them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd, and he will guide them to streams of the water of life. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes in love. That's truth that we can get behind, believe in, hope for, pray for, and act to bring about. The end time may not have come, if that's what John was literally predicting, and it may not be coming soon, but the book of Revelation nevertheless captures the truth that God, that peace is God's aim and God's dream for us, for all of humanity. The truth that for us Christ is Lord, that God acts to overthrow beastly powers, and that we should therefore have faith. It's what the force of good and the God of light drives us